So we've been going to school for quite a long time now, 17 or 18 years at least, most of us. And it's been a long time, it's not always easy, and quite frankly it can be pretty exhausting. So I'm sure we all know what it feels like to be burnt out. So I just want to take a second and see where everyone's at with that. How many of you have felt in the past like you have trouble getting out of bed, and by the time you're on campus, you're still struggling? And how many of you have felt like you just don't have the energy to be consistently productive? Those are kind of a given. That's kind of what I expected. But burnout's more than that, and it can affect us in a little bit stronger ways. So how many of you have noticed changes in your sleep schedule or your appetites? Okay. Or notice that you have a lack of satisfaction with your personal accomplishments? Or maybe you've noticed that you are becoming irritable or impatient with your friends, your classmates, or your family? Okay. Well, burnout is a multidimensional syndrome, which is characterized by three main dimensions. So emotional exhaustion, depersonalization, and a reduced sense of personal accomplishment. And if we're feeling the effects of burnout, then we're not going to be able to provide the best care for our patients in the treatment room or even behind the scenes. So if we're feeling this, how do we recognize those symptoms?
So some of the questions that Aaron's asked you guys are getting at the signs and symptoms of burnout. You also might feel a decreased satisfaction and sense of accomplishment. There's another factor that we're all very guilty of is procrastination. You do things last minute and you probably don't do them as well as you probably could have in the beginning if you had given yourself more time. You also might start taking out your frustrations on friends and family when they have nothing to do with your problem at hand. Some people start skipping work or class, or some people might come in late and leave early to do as little work as possible. And then other people might start becoming increasingly cynical and having a negative outlook. And sometimes it sounds like depression, and while burnout and depression are somewhat similar in some ways, they are very different because burnout is specific for your occupation. So right now it's students, but in the future we're going to be physical therapists, and that's the big difference right there. So we're going to do a little demonstration where Aaron is going to be a PT in a physical therapy clinic right now, and Lindsay represents life and everything life throws at you.
Aaron's work environment has become very stressful and chaotic.
However, he can counter that by doing deep breathing techniques whenever he feels overwhelmed or stressed.
Aaron has been working more than usual and has no time to relax.
He can change that by starting the day with a relaxing ritual, whether it's meditating for 15 minutes or just sitting down enjoying your cup of coffee for 10 minutes.
Because Aaron's work has become so hectic, he has been forced to take on more responsibilities without asking for help from others.
Aaron needs to learn how to set boundaries and say no. He can't do everything by himself.
Being so focused on his work, he has become closed off, and therefore his relationships with others is suffering.
He can counter this by developing close relationships with his coworkers. Not only will that fulfill his need for relationships, but they also might start to notice if he is exhuming the signs and symptoms of burnout.
The work has become monotonous and no longer intellectually challenging.
Aaron can start a new hobby or maybe begin a fun project.
All of these things prevent him from getting a quality night's sleep.
Aaron needs to set a bedtime and stick to it. So that might be setting an alarm on his phone and doing as much work as possible, but as soon as that alarm goes off, he goes to sleep.
Even though there are many preventative techniques to avoid becoming burnt out, Aaron has become overwhelmed from feeling underappreciated, not being recognized for his hard work, and powerless, which is all heightened by his high-achieving type A personality. As you can see, Aaron has become burnt out, which may lead to further consequences, such as impaired patient care by limiting the time we spend with our patients, generalization of individuals' treatments, and increased occurrence of mistakes, which will not only impact our relationships with our patients, but with our coworkers. Burnout is also linked to increased risk of heart attack and can make it very difficult to unwind. Therefore, this could lead to excessive use of alcohol, drugs, or even resignation.
So perhaps the best way to prevent a burnout is through an appropriate work and life balance. Each and every one of us could divide our lives up into categories depending on what it is that makes up a day, a week, a month, or even a year in our own shoes. As a group, we've decided on 5 main categories that we believe encompass the overall qualities of a student or a professional. Within the 5 categories, of course, are going to be subcategories. They're more subjective, personalized, and likely to vary depending on what it is that makes up an entire day, work, month, week, or year, and depending on the priorities from work and life personally.
You can see our categories up on the board, and just know that yours might not be exactly the same as this because it's going to be affected by your values, the things that are important to you, and everything that keeps you happy, healthy, and of course sane. So let's just pretend for a moment that it's a Thursday morning and you're just rolling out of bed. Did you get enough sleep, or are you still groggy and tired?
Not just any Thursday, though. Today you have a huge exam or a project due, let's say. Not only that, it's going to be a full 8-hour day. Your body and mind will only perform its best as long as it's fed, so make sure you set aside time to refuel.
And don't forget that you've got classmates and friends that are going through the same thing as you. So you can support each other. You can do something together that you both enjoy, like maybe a pickup game of basketball or tennis.
Once you're finally home from this long day, maybe pull up a chair, pick up a book, read for pleasure. Let your mind relax, turn on a movie, give your brain a break from the stress. Consider going out to dinner with a friend or a significant other, because you deserve a break from all that stress.
But we all know that it's pretty much impossible to be completely balanced all of the time. There are going to be days when you're focusing on your family, and then there will be other days where you've got to prepare for an important in-service you're giving at work. Other times you'll have the opportunity to relax for a weekend, maybe go on a trip or just sleep in. But the main idea is to remember that you might have to set some of your categories down so you can pick others up. Because if you try to hold on to everything, even though it's too much to handle, eventually it could all come crashing down. You also want to avoid dropping the same categories over and over and over again. Maybe you're just not ever leaving yourself with any time for you. And you need to avoid that because when burnout hits, it's pretty hard to get out of that state. And our health as individuals and as practitioners is just as important as the health of our patients. And in any case, our health is going to impact our treatments, which are going to impact our patients. So if we're feeling that depersonalization, then it can hinder our ability to think of and execute effective and personalized treatment plans. If we're feeling removed from our job or our responsibilities, then our patients just aren't going to get the care that they need, whether that's in the clinic or just behind the scenes. So think about it. What happens if we just lack the energy to advocate for our patients? Well, maybe somebody really needs an assistive device, but they end up going without it, and then they're at a higher risk for falls. Or maybe you miss warning signs of something like child maltreatment. Maybe you have a patient who's going for a workers' compensation claim, and you should be recommending and advocating for them to get a work hardening program, but you don't have the time or you don't have the energy, so they go without, they go back to work, and they're at risk for re-injury. Also, it's really important for us to recognize emotional exhaustion, which is the most applicable to PTs, and I think we all recognize that at this point we can provide a huge service to our patients by going the extra mile. And we all want to be passionate, caring practitioners, but we can't give it all the time, because if we do and we end up burnt out, then we can't provide them with the proper care. So maintaining the work-life balance and preventing burnout will help us to become the effective, compassionate clinicians that we want to be, and it'll help us maintain better patient outcomes.